Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to round off our discussion of winter in Waka by talking about the animals and plants most associated with the season. Combined with the first two videos, that should give you a fairly solid idea of the ways in which Waka poets conceived of and described winter, and helped you with understanding the images and emotions that Waka poets sought to convey, if you feel like reading more pre-modern Japanese poetry, which, of course, I hope you do. This is going to be the shortest of these videos because there are not many plants or animals associated with winter, something which you might think would be obvious, but in fact isn't. I was surprised when I started thinking about this video and took a look at my Seijiki, that's an almanac of key poetic seasonal words used by haiku poets, at the enormous number of fish which are associated with winter in that genre of poetry. Haruo Shirane, in his excellent book, Japan and the Culture of the Four Seasons, explains that a substantial fishing industry, and thus fish becoming a major part of the Japanese diet, with all the cultural associations that brings, only developed in the early modern period from the 17th century onwards, with the growth of the new urban centres of Osaka and Edo, modern Tokyo. So it's not surprising that numerous fish should be mentioned in haiku, which developed from the hokku poetry of the time. Nor is it surprising that fish are rarely mentioned in Waka, as the capital aristocracy rarely ate or, I suppose, encountered them. It's discoveries like this that serve to remind me just how much of what we consider to be traditional Japanese culture would have been completely alien to the aristocrats of Heian Kyo as they went about their daily lives. Getting back to winter and Waka, as I said a few moments ago, there aren't many plants and animals associated with the season, but let's get started and see what there are. There are only 4 animals which are frequently mentioned in winter Waka. I say animals, but in fact they're not animals, but birds, and one of these avian topics does not refer to a specific bird, but is a generic term for a type of bird, mizutori, water birds. This expression was associated with winter not so much because of the bird's behaviour and nature, but because they were frequently used figuratively in poems to express a sense of sadness or of the transience of human existence, as in the following exchange. Sent to a lady with whom he had simply been exchanging letters for some years. Mizutori no hakanaki ato ni toshi o hete, kayou bakari no eni koso ari kere. Waterbirds leave but transient traces as the years go by. This simple back and forth is all we truly have. Her reply. Nami no ue ni ato ya wa miyuru mizutori no ukite henu ran toshi wa kazuka wa. Upon the waves can you see tracks? The waterbirds drift and passed by have the years, but so what? The anonymous author of the first poem uses the tracks of the birds, which will be swiftly erased by the waves, as a metaphor for the letters he has exchanged with the equally nameless lady. The implication of his expression of frustration that all they have done is exchange letters is to wonder whether it's worth continuing the relationship. Her reply is twofold. First, she suggests that while the tracks left by waterbirds on the shore are apt to vanish, anything left on the surface of the water will disappear even more quickly. Second, she says that just as waterbirds drift along on the surface of the water, so too has their relationship been a casual one, and as such it should be no surprise that it has continued in the same vein for a number of years. She is wittily accusing him of reading more into their relationship than is actually there. It's this sort of poem that shows that Heian ladies were not all passive recipients of male attention, but were quite capable of putting a man in his place if they felt like it. A specific type of bird associated with winter was the duck, kamo. These birds had been associated with winter contexts as early as Manyoshu, as in, when he visited the Naniwa Palace in Kyoun 3, 706. Ashibe yuku kamo no hagai ni shimo furite, samuki yube wa yamoto shio mo hoyu. Huddled in the reeds upon the duck's folded wings, frost falls, and In the evening's cold, my thoughts dwell upon Yamato. The familiar sensation of cold and the addition of frost makes this a winter waka, although Shiki makes this a poem of longing for home with the mention of a place name, Yamato, which refers to the region around the old capital of Nara, some distance away from Naniwa, which was located near the coast where Osaka is now. Interestingly enough, a variant of this poem was included among the winter poems in Shinchokusen Wakashu, an imperial waka anthology commissioned by Emperor Go Horikawa from Fujiwara no Teika and completed in 1235. The variant is almost identical to its manual predecessor, apart from the final line. On the day of an imperial visit to the Naniwa Palace in Kyoan 3, 706. Ashibe yuku kamo no hagai ni shimo furite, samuki yube no koto o shizo omou. Huddled in the reeds upon the duck's folded wings, frost falls, and in the evening's cold, my mind is full of thoughts. What is it that Shiki is thinking about? The poem doesn't specify, and so allows more room for the reader to interpret the meaning according to his or her preferences. Given the initial part of the poem, though, the emotions are certain to be melancholy. Even without specific mentions of winter, it was still possible for ducks to carry an air of sadness and chill. A poem by Prince Yuhara when he was in Yoshino. Yoshino naru natsumi no kawa no kawa yodo ni kamozo naku naru yamakage ni shite. In Yoshino, from the river Natsumi's deep still pools, the ducks cry in the mountain's shade. This is quite a sophisticated poem. The name of the river, Natsumi, can be read as both Natsumi, picking herbs, or as Natsumi, seeing summer. If one is in a time when one can see summer, then logically the season is not summer. The mention of the river's yodo, a term which referred to the parts of a river which flowed slow and deep, so much so that yodo could also refer to stagnant water, combined with the reference to the mountain's shade, adds a sense of additional coldness, while shade also provides darkness. So we are in a time when it is darker, colder, and from within the darkness the ducks are crying. Potentially, this could be either winter or spring, and with Yoshino's association with cherry blossom and thus spring might make this more likely. But winter is possible partly because of the image of the sound of the ducks crying from the darkness, which seems more in keeping with that season. Topic unknown. Fuyu no ike no kamo no uage ni okushimono, kiete mono o mou, koro no in mo aru kana. At a pond in winter, upon the duck's down falls frost. It vanishes, and gloom takes all my time. This is a pure winter poem, with the explicit mention of the season reinforced with the reference to frost, as well as the depressed and melancholy emotions. As with many seasonally associated pieces of diction, ducks could also be used in other types of poetry. For example, topic unknown. Ashigamo no sawagu irie no shiranami no shirazu ya hito kaku koimu to wa. Among the reed beds, ducks cry noisily with the inlet washed by whitecaps. I never expected that I would love her so. In this love poem, the ducks' sudden uproar caused by an unexpected wave washing over the reed beds where they are sheltering is used as a metaphor for the sudden emotions of love which have overwhelmed the poet. There's a wonderful ambiguity about this waka. Has the poet been struck with love and is keeping it secret? Has he confessed his love and had it reciprocated? Has he confessed and not had it reciprocated? Has an affair run its course and his lover turned cold while he still burns with passion? Any of these potential contexts, and more, could be written onto this poem, so it can fit more or less any point in the progress of a love affair. The third winter animal is also a type of duck, the mandarin duck, or shidori, to be precise. Mandarins were believed to mate for life, and so they have long been associated with fidelity and marital bliss in Japanese. But because their down was used for stuffing garments and coverlets, and winter was the season when these were used, they were also associated with that too. For example, Oshidori mo kuguru iwane no usu kori, kesayau wage ni tojikasanu ran. The mandarins do dive beneath the ice film round the rocks. I wonder, will their down this morning be clogged with crystal layers? As I explained in the previous video, ice was a further key marker of winter, and the reference to it clogging the duck's down, which was associated with warmth, means it must be cold indeed. Fuyu samumi, hadareshi mo furu sayonaka ni, tsugawa no oshi no koe zo kanashiki. In winter's chill, a brush of frost does fall at midnight when the unmainted mandarin's cries are sad indeed. Tadafusa plays with a number of seasonal elements in this poem. The explicit mention of winter, the reference to frost as well as midnight, all of these are markers of winter. To this, he adds a reference to an unmated mandarin, Tsugawa no Oshi. Given that the birds were strongly associated with being mated, as I mentioned a moment ago, an unmated one would be truly miserable, something which he says clearly in the final line. The emotional tone is thus entirely in keeping with the mood of winter. Finally, the last bird associated with winter was the plover, chidori, although you will find plovers mentioned in a wider range of seasonal poetry, as they crop up in both spring and autumn works too. Nevertheless, the bird's cries were felt to convey an air of sadness, which was appropriate for winter, and so you get them used in poems such as Okitsushi o sashide no iso no hamachidori, kaze samukarashi yowa ni tomo yobu. From the offing the tides strike the shore at Sashide. On the beach, plovers, chilled by the wind, call for their mates at midnight. Nagakata's poem conveys the way the plover's cries seem to accentuate and intensify the cold and associated sadness of winter. Even though he doesn't mention the season explicitly, the mentions of cold and night are sufficient to situate the context as winter. Finally, here's a poem from Fujiwara no Teika's 100-round contest of his own poems, Teika Kyo Hyakuban Jika Awase, a collection of 200 poems which Teika put into rounds in 1216 and sent to Emperor Juntoku, asking him to provide judgments about which were better. Juntoku obliged, although he didn't give reasons for his decisions. This is one of the winter poems which he preferred. Naku chidori sode no minato o toi kokashi, morokoshi bune mo yoru no nezame ni. Plovers, with your cries, to the river mouth of my sleeve come calling. A ship from far Cathay starts me from nighttime sleep. There's a strong sense of sadness at the beginning of this poem, with the initial naku, which is homophonous with the word for weep, as I think I've said in an earlier video. A good aristocrat dried his tears on his sleeves, and the mention of them in the second line thus alludes to tears without mentioning them explicitly. What's so sad about the plover's cries? We don't know, but they've pulled the poet's thoughts far enough out of himself that it might as well be a trading vessel from China. Finally, we come to plants, and it should be no surprise to you that there are not many botanical images associated with winter in Waka. In fact, there's only two main ones which I'm going to talk about today, and neither refers to a specific plant. They are trees' leaves, konoha, and scattered fallen leaves, ochiba. So, as you can see, the second is a variation on the first. It's also the case that trees' leaves as a piece of diction can appear in both late autumn and early winter poems, with the difference between them mainly being that in the former poems the leaves are still on the trees, whereas in the latter the emphasis is on them falling from the trees as a result of, generally, wind and rain. It's a somewhat fuzzy dividing line though, so you can get an autumn poem like this. A poem from the poetry competition at Prince Koresada's house. Wagaki tsuru kata mo shirarezu, kurao yama, kigi no konoha no chiru no tomagao ni. I have come I know not where, for in the dimness on dark mountain, among the trees' leaves falling, I have lost my way. But you can also get winter poems like this one. Topic unknown. Kaminazuki shigure to tomo ni kaminabi no mori no konoha wa furu ni koso fure. In the godless month, together with the showers, in the sacred groves, the leaves from the trees have fallen truly, every one. Here, the mention of a specific month, which was officially part of the season of winter, makes this a winter poem, together with the fact that the leaves have all fallen. Here's another example from Horikawa Hyakushu. Kono hanomi chiru kato omoi shi shigure ni wa nabida mo aenu mono ni zo arikeru. Do the trees' leaves simply fall, I wondered. The showers failed to match my tears at the thought. It's the link that Toshiori establishes between the leaves, the rain, and their falling, which makes this a winter poem. Shigure no ame, kono habakari o somekureba, kazuki shisode wa iru mo kawarazu. Showers of rain, simply the tree's leaves do die, so my drenched leaves' hue remains unchanged. Ryugen refers to the belief that autumn rains caused the colour change of leaves in the autumn in his poem. This is one of those waka which spans the seasons to some extent. It's included among the winter poems in Horikawa Hyakushu, but could equally well have been an autumn poem in another context. Moving on to Ochiba, which I'm translating here as fallen scattered leaves, the core sense of this piece of diction was of leaves which had fallen, were lying on the ground, and were then affected in some way. So, for example, we have this poem among Kokinshu's Poems from the Eastlands in its final book. A poem from Hitachi. Tsukubane no mine no momijiba ochitsu mori. Shiru mo shiranu mo nabede kanashi mo. On Tsukuba Mountain's high peak, the scarlet leaves have fallen piled high. Knowing it or knowing not, all is sad, just the same. Mount Tsukuba is a famous twin peak a little to the north of modern Tokyo, so far to the east of the old capital of Heian Kyoto. You can reach the nearby science city of Tsukuba by fast train, leaving from the pop culture mecca of Akihabara, if you are interested in visiting. Ochiba were also frequently associated with rain, as in composed on the conception of leaves falling in the rain. Kono hachiru yado wa kikiwaku katazonaki, shugure suru yomo, shuguru senu yomo. Leaves falling from the trees, at my house, listening, I have no way to tell between nights when showers fall and nights when showers fall not. The fallen leaves make such a noise, Yorizane says, that he cannot tell the difference between nights when it's raining and those when it isn't. Composed on the conception of being buried in frosty fallen leaves. Ochitsumoru niwa no konoha o yono hodo ni harai hitekeri to misuru asashi mo. Fallen piled high at my estate, the leaves from the trees, within the spaces of a single night, have been swept away, it seems, by the morning frost. Here, the leaves have fallen and covered the grounds of the poet's estate, but waking one morning, he finds them completely white and covered by frost, and indulges himself in the conceit that they have all been swept away in the night. Finally, here's a poem from Shinkokinshu. Composed on the conception of the waters clogged with fallen leaves when he had gone to the river Oi. Takase bune shibuku bakari ni momijiba no nagarete kudaru oi ga ukana. The punts simply struggle in the scarlet leaves, flowing down the river Oi. In many ways, this could be an autumn poem, as there are certainly waka describing water covered by autumn leaves for that season. Perhaps it's the quantity of leaves which makes this a winter poem. There are so many on the surface of the river that the boats are struggling to get through. That's it for the season of winter. I hope that you found this video informative, But feel free to put any questions you might have in the comments below and subscribe to the channel for more updates. I'm taking a break from the seasons until next year, when we're actually in spring and then summer. But early in the new year, I hope, I'll have some videos talking about the other crucial topic area for Waka, love. See you then.